Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Not too long ago, this article was published where Meghan Markle gave a really brief interview where she was just answering a couple of questions about her modest investment in Cesta Collective, a handbag company that hasn't exactly welcomed the experience. Since Meghan's sort of over-the-top proclamation about this relatively modest investment, Cesta Collective has had to come out and sort of correct the narrative that Meghan is not actually that involved. She's just like any other sort of small investor playing a small role in the big picture of their company, while simultaneously coming under the microscope of the public, where people are actually wondering just how ethical Cesta Collective's business model really is. This is a company where at least part of the handbag is made by women in Africa, and then the handbag is finished somewhere else, I believe Italy, and they sell at really high price points. Since this whole kerfluffle with the Meg came about, Cesta Collective has now been outed as people who maybe aren't paying those people in Africa who are doing about 50% of the craftsmanship or more. The design itself, the exterior of the bag, which everybody sees, is what they're making. It's the rest of it that's made somewhere else. And so you could argue that might be even more than 50% in terms of the actual construction of the bag, because it's the design in terms of the visual patterns and the texture of it and all of that, as well as the outer construction of the actual vessel itself. So you could argue it's maybe even more than 50% of the manufacturing or making of these bags is by these women who are making it by hand. And they might not be actually, according to some sources who investigated, getting paid as fairly as they should be for the high price point that these bags are selling at. So it hasn't exactly been a good experience for Cesta. Big surprise, a business, a person, a project has the Meg leech onto it and ends up with a lot of problems afterwards. Just like the Pat Tillman Foundation was outed to be giving a very small percentage to actual charities and taking very large annual salaries for themselves after Prince Harry was chosen to receive the Pat Tillman Award. That backlash sparked people's interest in what exactly Pat Tillman is and whether or not they're corrupt. Turns out they kind of seem like they might be a little bit corrupt. So the pattern has become well established that Harry and Meghan's association with certain things ends up not working out so great for whatever it is that they're associating with. And it's kind of indicative of the sorts of choices Harry and Meghan make in the first place, that they're not really vetting these things very good, or they don't really care and turn a blind eye. I'm not sure which is worse. So let's take a look at what this article actually says and see if we can figure out what the Meg is actually talking about here. But before we get into today's video, I'd like to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. Click the like button and leave a comment, only if you want to. If you don't know what to comment, comment shark. You'll see why. So this headline is, I think, the original article or interview, if you could call it that, because it was just a few questions sort of clarifying her involvement with Cesta Collective, really, and then a subsequent follow up with Cesta Collective to see whether or not what the Meg said was actually true. Not fully, a little bit exaggerated, but this article is what we're going to look at today because it's much more cringeworthy for you. Meghan Markle says she is in a chapter of investing in herself in a new interview. So many chapters to the Meg, so many chapters, so little time. It's generally not received very well when you declare yourself to be in any sort of a chapter. Recently, Meghan's been really fixated on using this sort of language. We heard her talking about how she's in a chapter of joy. We've previously heard her talking about being in a chapter of forgiveness, like she was in a position to be forgiving anyone. Now she is in a chapter of investing, not just investing, but in herself. Investing in myself was the quote. It's just never going to come across good to the public. It's just never going to work to say stuff like that. It makes it seem really self-indulgent. The interview was originally done, and like I said, it was just a few questions with the New York Times, where she revealed that she invested in the female-founded, sustainably sourced handbag brand, Cesta Collective, and spoke about how she is investing in herself as well. She referenced that global interest in her style following her engagement to Prince Harry in 2017 changed everything about her approach to fashion and later led her to invest in brands she believes in. Investing in them has helped me line up for this chapter where I'm investing in myself. Meghan views her investment initiatives as a dolphin tank, not a shark tank, seemingly referring to the TV show. As opposed to the typical cutthroat nature of business, when it comes to Meghan's investments, these are friendly waters, she told the New York Times. She mentioned that there's between 5 and 10 brands currently in her portfolio. This has been disputed as far as researchers have found so far, those who have looked into it. She's only invested in 3, American Riviera, Orchard, Montecito, her brand that's failing before it's even launched, Cesta Collective, and there's one other, which we'll get to later. She sees them as complementary to her forthcoming lifestyle brand, American Riviera, Orchard, Montecito, which might be something else eventually, someday. Speaking about how she got the inspiration to begin investing, whether monetarily or by simply wearing articles of clothing to promote brand awareness, Meghan referenced how the Strathberry bag she carried at her very first royal outing with Prince Harry in 2017 sold out within minutes and helped the Scottish brand expand its staff. She said it changed everything in terms of how I then looked at putting an outfit together and inspired her to use fashion as a force for good. Times where I know there is a global spotlight and attention will be given to each detail of what I may or may not be wearing, then I support designers that I have really great friendships with and smaller up-and-coming brands that haven't gotten the attention that they should be getting. That's one of the most powerful things that I'm able to do, and that's simply wearing like an earring. Well, humility absent, but also I think she's overstating things a bit, and so did pretty much everybody else. This is taking things a little bit too far. The problem is that Meghan doesn't have exactly the same impact on the fashion space as, say, Catherine, the Princess of Wales does. Looking at numbers here, Catherine alone has boosted the British fashion industry up to $1 billion per year. However, Meghan has 2 problems in the metrics here. Firstly, she's much less engaged than Catherine, Princess of Wales is when it comes to outings that are publicized and well-respected and well-received and things like that, and actual years in this sort of space. Catherine is well-established. She's been part of these sorts of public-facing duties for more years than Meghan has. Meghan left the royal family immediately. She doesn't carry as much weight. There's all these other factors and variables that make this not really a very fair comparison. But estimates are, at most, Meghan had an impact total of less than 200 million, according to this source. But that is an estimate, and a high-end estimate at that, a sort of like maximum 200 million. So when you think about that, Catherine is at least 5 times more impactful on the fashion industry than Meghan is when it comes to monetary value. Part of that is obvious in, like I said, exposure and like value and connection with people, inspiring them to actually spend their hard-earned money on something. Another sort of like given in this dynamic or comparison is the likability factor. People really, really like Catherine, Princess of Wales. They like what she wears. They like how she looks. She looks genuine and happy and effortless, and her outfits are accessible a lot of the time, and she's just very well liked. She has very positive popularity ratings. Meghan, opposite. Very negative popularity ratings. Disliked. Voted most disliked 2 years in a row and other years as well. Just very much doesn't have the same reputation. Not likable. It just is what it is. But perhaps most importantly, Meghan's impact is immediately undermined by her poor execution. She comes out in outfits that maybe she did thoughtfully put them together. Just saying, hypothetically, maybe she did thoughtfully put them together. Maybe they are really great brands or purposefully chosen and whatnot. But then she comes out and she's wrinkled, or it's not appropriate for the occasion, or she looks foolish and amateurish, or she doesn't get a nice finish on the outfit. So then the outfit itself doesn't look that great, and it's not impressive to the eye. Part of what makes an outfit look really good and impressive and like something somebody else is like, wow, I would like to wear that or look that way or have the same sort of an outfit or same sort of a vibe in my outfit, look similar, is all about execution and simple little details that people often overlook. They think, well, it's a fabulous sweater. It looks beautiful on the hanger. But when they put it on, if they don't have the right type of bra, or they don't have the right type of undergarment, or they have their bra lines or their undergarments or their pants are too tight and it's creating like a bulge or a lump or something, you know, any of those things, or it gets wrinkly somehow, then the garment itself no longer shines and no longer looks fabulous, and it's not going to be impressive to anybody. It's just going to look messy and not great. And so since Meghan struggles so much with getting a nice polished finish, it doesn't matter how nice the clothes are or how thoughtful the choices of accessory is. It's not going to impress anyone, and thus it won't inspire people to buy, and it won't have as big of an impact on the fashion industry when it comes to sales and monetary value. Setting aside all those other variables like amount of time and opportunity and all of that and popularity, that alone will take away from somebody's impact on fashion right off the bat. And for her to say that's one of the most powerful things I'm able to do, simply wearing like an earring, well, then she's not taking that very seriously, because she doesn't choose affordable, accessible brands or women-owned brands for a lot of things. She selects stuff that's either really expensive and out of reach for most people, or she selects things that are just odd choices and not really going to be the same sort of impact that she's talking about here. So her words are not matching what we know, historically speaking, to be true, which is that Meghan does not impact the fashion industry that strongly at all in comparison. Now, I mean, of course, compared to a normal, average, everyday person, yeah, but that's because she's got a platform, or at least she used to have a platform, where she was photographed and seen and people knew what she was wearing. Now it's a little bit different. This really sort of became a newsworthy item, if you could call it that. I really don't think that this was worth an article about it, but whatever. The reason why it became newsy was because she was the first outside investor for Cesta Collective over the summer. The founders said that she is a minority stakeholder, and her involvement did spark hope of growing their business, expanding operations across categories, and hiring more female artisans in developing countries. But like I said, unfortunately, a lot of not so great images started to crop up like these, and questions about fair pay or exploiting these women for their brand. So it really didn't work out so great for Cesta in the long run. But back to Meghan's portfolio, the only other real investment that has been discovered, so really the only other one that was significant enough to be noticed, was in the instant latte company Clever Blends, where we saw her do a really cringe commercial, which I'll link the video talking about that here for you guys. She opened up about finding possible partners in a relatable way by browsing online. I spend a lot of time just Googling and looking for brands. When people are online looking for things or reading things, I'm trying to find great new designers, especially in different territories. Well, she just can't seem to adjust her tone to not come across as patronizing no matter what she's talking about. But this here is sort of a contradictory statement. Meghan constantly reiterates to people that she's never spends any time online, but instead we find out that she spends a lot of time Googling online. She also tried to say in the Variety interview that she really doesn't spend much time on devices or on screens. She rarely turns on TV and whatnot. She'd rather play Scrabble or Wordle. But then she spends lots of time online searching for brands. Well, which is it? This is the problem with saying so many things and making so many grandiose statements that can then later be disproved, because then you end up poking holes in your own story. So, as per usual, Meghan embarrassed herself with these comments at the end of the day. She describes her investment approach as a dolphin tank as opposed to a shark tank, which is a sort of goofy, dorky sentence on the face of it anyway. But furthermore, her investment portfolio is super small. The investments that she's made are small on their own, and only 3 companies so far. And that's only if you count the fail before it launched American Riviera Orchard Montecito. She's only really invested in 2 separate companies in small amounts. So this is hardly from the perspective of a seasoned or impressive investor at all. She's an amateur, and she's talking like it's a really big deal to make these small investments in 2 companies plus her own. It's inflated and grandiose and very typical for the Meg. She really does lack the business acumen for any of these projects or any of these endeavors, and it's so obvious that it really makes you wonder if the interview conducted was more of a troll, sort of allowing her a platform to embarrass herself, or not. Of course, there's nothing wrong with somebody seeking out companies that they think are interesting or have great potential and investing in them. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, people who have more money, wealthier people, that's a really good thing to do, because then you can help out another business person on their way up, trying to make something happen, who you think has a really great idea. And if it's a product or a company or, handbags in this situation that you really do like, you want to see that company continue and make more and be successful. So it would make sense to invest and try to help out and make sure that the longevity of that brand is solid and that they can grow. Like, all of that makes sense and is fine. But to talk about it like this, like it's some huge deal and like she has some huge sway over the fashion industry, is just out of touch and insane and not actually true. Not rooted in reality in the slightest. Well, I cannot wait to read your comments on this one. Be sure to leave your thoughts below. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I will see you next time. Bye!